Hello and welcome to Academica Vertex, episode 21. My name is Stephen, and tonight I am joined by Casey. You'll know him better as FPL Tornado, and FPL Lens or Gabe, our new boy on the scene here. Gabe, let's start with you. How you doing this evening?
Hi, Stephen. Yeah, doing pretty well. Thanks for having me back. Excited to be here, and we've got some very interesting conversations lined up.
That we do, and with that, let's kick it over to Casey. Casey, how's it going this evening with you? I know you're on the wild card this week.
I am, yeah. I'm trying not to panic yet. Wearing my Everton jersey, so we can celebrate Marco Silva and Javi Gracia today. And I know that you're wearing your Watford jersey, so we're all in good shape here.
Yeah, definitely had to represent coming in here tonight after I saw your Everton jersey on. Let's jump right into it. Let's take a real quick look back at 13 and see how things were for everybody. One note, Garf, FPL Shark, the other half, he's Sharknado, may join us, may not. We'll just have to wait and see, but we're going to go ahead and start without him. So, Casey, give us your week 13. How did things go?
It was poor, but it wasn't disastrous. I think I had 43 points. It's the first time all year I was below the game week average, so I can't complain too much. I'm 13 for 13 with captains, so I captained Salah, and I had Laporte clean sheet and a Robertson clean sheet, and then 8 blanks. So I guess it could be worse.
Yeah, it definitely could be worse. I mean, it's always tough to drop just a few points under that average, even getting a couple of points over the average, and you still end up with a small red arrow. It's frustrating. Gabe, how about you? How was your 13 and your highlights?
Yeah, so my 13 was, we were discussing earlier, it was confusingly good. I did quite well above the average with 70 points this week. But I'm not sure, I was telling you earlier, I'm not sure how I achieved that kind of differential compared to some of the other teams, given that I have, I think, 9 of the top 5,000 team have. So I don't know. I guess I pulled away. My big performers were Alexander-Arnold and Sterling, and I captained Salah this week. So that worked out well for me. I also have Laporte that contributed to that as well. So good week for me. Green arrows all around. Up to, what was it, around 14,600.
No good times.
Getting up there. As for me, I finished 56. It was another green arrow that finally bumped me up inside the top 100,000. I'm sitting at 92K right now. Again, I'm living the high life off of my defense. 5 clean sheets out of 6. Alonso, the only one not returning. Midfield, I continue to struggle. It's Salah every week. If I don't captain him, I have no points for my midfield. Up front, it was a failure. Arnautovic, Wilson, Aguero. I don't expect that this week. I expect at least one of Aguero, Arnautovic to return. But I've got some decisions to make here in the coming weeks with that midfield because I can't go into the festive period with just Salah. Hughes, Goodmanson, 2 points between them. Goodmanson didn't even play, but oddly enough, I got Wan-Bissaka off the second bench position to give me 6 points to bump me up into the top 100,000. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Nice.
Sort of rescued my week there, even though I did have like a small 3,000 green arrow going into that Monday Newcastle Burnley fixture. So enough about 13. Festive period starts Friday. Lots of questions, especially surrounding the Man City mids. And I know this has sort of been talked to death by a lot of the other podcasts this week. What do you do with the midfield of Man City, Gabe? Let's start with you.
I guess it depends where you are and how heavily. I think I want as much of that pie as possible. I've had Sterling for several weeks, and Sterling's really been kind of the primary player responsible for a resurgence after a drop several weeks ago. So, I mean, I think David Silva's value is excellent. I mean, David Silva is basically getting I think 6 to 8 points per week, except he's about 4.5 about 5 million less than, or 4.5 million less than Salah, who's getting the same amount of points. I think Sané for this run, Sané is great. I think Sterling is an absolute must. I think he will score the most points out of any FPL player. And despite rotation, it is a season-long game, not a week-to-week game. So I think Sterling has to be in there. And I think Sane for now is okay. But I can understand if there were one out of those that I'd sacrifice, it'd be Sane because he's more of a short-term pick.
All right. And Casey, I know you're on the wild card this week. Which way are you leaning with City midfielders?
Yeah, I think I'll have 2, if not 3, on my wild card. I think it's not a long-term thing. I think it's just a Christmas period. But I think 3 Man City midfielders could be the way to go. And the reason I say that is because everyone's a rotation risk over the Christmas period. You know, Hazard, Eriksen, basically every single midfielder in a similar price bracket to a Man City midfielder is also a rotation risk. So why not get the best attacking midfielders? Because more or less their rotation's mitigated because everyone else is rotating. So I think if there's any time to double or triple up on Man City midfielders, it's now, when everyone's a rotation risk.
See, and that's good because I take the opposite end. I'm not planning on any City mids through this run. I've been, who was it? MathSafe. Peter Gray. Is it Peter Gray? I think he put an article out that he was just tossing ideas out there about what we were discussing before we went on air with the ownership. I've been looking a lot at the top 1,000 ownership. There are no City mids in that. The closest one is Raheem Sterling. Even then, he's still a 1.7 or 1.8% lower than the lowest midfielder on that top 1,000 team. So right now, my thinking is I'm not going to shell out the 11.3 for Sterling. Not even going to look at Sane or Sterling, even though they're more affordable, and I could conceivably fit one or the other here in the next couple of weeks. Instead, I'm just sticking with the grower up front as my lone attacking asset from City, and hoping that going double defense on City and no City mids is going to help me through this festive period. I could be wrong, but up through 13 weeks, it's paid dividends. I can't see changing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a bad long-term view of things here. I think
it's risky though. It's risky going into the holidays.
A little, yes. I think, like I said, I think my strategy with 2 or 3 is only viable over the December period because of how risky all of the midfielders are that aren't just Man City. That I think it's an okay time you mitigate some of that risk to get some of those Man City midfielders. But I agree that up until now, it's very difficult to justify having anyone other than maybe Sterling in that midfield. Maybe David Silva, but with Mendy out 3 months, maybe Sane becomes someone that plays 3 out of every 4.
Yeah, so we shift gears here from City mids to, I guess we just go completely Spurs. I have Spurs midfield here on the talking points, but actually Spurs in general. I know there's been some interest reigniting in Harry Kane this week. Ali and Eriksen both had great games, 13, 11 points respectively last week. They have Arsenal. Is it Arsenal this week? It is Arsenal, right? Yeah, they have Arsenal this week. Yep. Your thoughts on Spurs? Anybody going Spurs? Anybody considering Spurs? Can you fit somebody like a Harry Kane and I've seen Kane Sterling combination. Some managers going forward. Do you go big up front with Kane and Aguero? Any thoughts on that, Gabe?
And this is where I had my little embarrassing moment of I'm going completely against what I said last week last time we potted, where I said I don't know who Spurs are. I don't know what they're doing. I think they showed some potential now, and I have to kind of take another look and reassess on that front. And I'm pretty certain that now I'm flip-flopping to such an extreme that I'm probably, after this week, I'm probably going to go Hazard to Brooks and Jimenez to Kane for Southampton. And Brooks, actually, Bournemouth have a series of tough fixtures, but next week I believe they play Huddersfield or something like that. They have a nice one just snuck in there, and I can play Brooks right away with that double transfer. So I'm looking to do that The only thing is I'm not sure. It's going to be really tight if I can afford it or not. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, on my wild card, I think Spurs are definitely on my mind. I don't even think it's a wait till next week sort of thing. Well, especially on my wild card, but I mean, home to Arsenal is a good attacking fixture. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. I mean, I just don't. If there's any time to jump on them, if you want to get them before the price rises, I would say do it this week. I think Gabe's right. We don't know, or we didn't know who Spurs were. I have a lot of worries with Spurs, though. One thing it is, they're healthy now. Eriksen's healthy. Ali's healthy. Son is with the team for another 4 or 5 weeks, and then he's off to the Asia Games. So they have a full squad, although they don't really have much of a squad. So that does worry me in some senses. So they are not rotation or as big of a rotation risk because they don't have a huge squad. I think Son is going to be rotated. Ali might miss a game or two. Eriksen might miss a game or two, but nothing too crazy with Lamela and Lucas Moura potentially replacing one of those three. But I think they play well against teams that they can counter with, and that'll give them space and things like that. They really struggle to break down the Southamptons of the world that they're playing next week. I'm almost waiting to see, as opposed to jumping on them in game like 15, I almost want to wait. And I know that's going to be a problem for prices, but I almost want to wait till game week 16 or 17 till I know how they play against teams that just park the bus.
Well, we saw that last year, though. They did the same thing when they were at home. I mean, they struggled against some of these lower league teams, and they would end up with a 1-0, 2-0 score when you expected 3 or 4.
The biggest thing that worries me about Spurs is that they actually have a good run. I almost would rather have Ali when they're playing, Arsenal. Well, the Arsenal's this week, but I'd almost rather have them when they play like Arsenal, Watford away, and some of these fixtures where the other team's going to kind of come out and play against them, as opposed to just sit back.
My concern with Spurs, one of my concerns is that are they too dependent on the exact right conditions to or players to perform? Right? Does it have to be just right in order to get a lot of attacking return from? What encourages me and what really may kind of seal the deal for me with Kane is I think it was the Who Got the Assist podcast guys that were saying the first 10 games Kane averaged 2.9 shots per game, and now in the last 3 he's averaging 5.33, which means he's probably not dropping as deep. The midfield is probably contributing more, which is allowing him to get closer to the goal and have more opportunities. And against this, with this run of fixtures, Kane with those opportunities, it's still a trial period for me. I'll bring him in, and then if it's not happening, I'll ship him right back out. I won't be too attached to him. But if he smashes and we're not on it, or if he smashes and we are not on it, that's a pretty big catapult up the ranks. That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, if you get him a week or two before everyone else, you're going to be 15 points or 20 points up on everyone, and then you're going to get a 0.4 in team value over 2 weeks or something like that. It's definitely it's a risk reward sort of thing, and that's why I'm thinking on my wild card that maybe it's a risk worth taking, but it's all about team structure then. And I just worry with Harry Kane that even if we have Harry Kane of last year, is he really good value? I don't know, because
how many weeks have we been saying that about Mo Salah? Same, he's 13 million. I mean, he's been rather consistent, but has he been 3 million more consistent than what Mane is going to be giving you?
Right, and so it's interesting with Salah is that he's not. Well, he's starting to hit form. So he's like got a floor of 8 points, but he could double or triple return all of a sudden, and then boom, it's like every third week he's getting 20 points, and
and
all
that can
of a sudden, he had a period like that last year. Most of the year he was just like 8 points, but then in February or January he hit form where like every other week he was double-digit hauling, and so right now he's still at that. He's still got a really high floor, and Kane is almost like 17 points or 2 points. And unless you're going to captain him consistently and hope that he hits 17 more often than 2, I just don't know if it's really worth it.
Yeah, and that's like Aguero, same thing. I mean, we know he's got a rather, 6, 7, 8 point floor, but he can have a Newcastle type ceiling with 4 or 5 in,
Right.
the blink of an eye. I think Kane's the same way. I think Gabe's right. Maybe the conditions need to be right for Spurs to come out and have a good showing. May have a better showing this week against Arsenal than, like you said, against Southampton, who he knows is going to put, 10 guys behind the ball and, hope they can keep Spurs out. I mean, I think the prices are decent if you're looking toward the midfield with Ollie Eriksson. Kane's a tough fit. I mean, do you take Aguero out if you want Kane in? I mean, that's a quick,
Yeah.
easy fix if you have that million in the bank. Is that a move either one of you would consider? Or do you want to see another week or two of what Spurs do, or you rather keep Aguero if you had him moving forward?
I'd certainly keep Aguero this week against Bournemouth, and this just feels like one of those Aguero weeks where everybody he let everybody down last week, and this week he's going to come smash it at home as he always does. So I would keep Aguero this week, but I would certainly next week I would do the Aguero to Kane switch, and if Kane can't deal with the Cedrics of the world, then he won't be in my team for very long, and I would just make the switch back or go to Sterling.
Oh, and Aubameyang. The nice thing is that in 2 weeks, Aubameyang has a wonderful run of fixtures, and maybe he's firing. You can go down 1.5 million right there, or you can go down to Aguero. So it is nice that you have at least a couple of like-for-like switches for Kane, and you can do them in one move because they're all cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
For me on my wild card, it's Kane or no Kane decision. It's not Aguero and then next week I'm going to move in for Kane, because what's the point of planning a transfer on the first week of your wild card after your wild card? The wonderful thing about my wild card is that I'm going to have 2 transfers by Wednesday. I mean, I can, unless someone gets hurt, I'm going to have this wild card. Then I'm going to have games this weekend. Then Monday's the only day without fixtures. Tuesday, all of a sudden, we're in the next game week, and it'll be pretty easy to hold my transfer for like 36 hours. And then I'll have 2 transfers come Wednesday, and I can do some surgery right away if something doesn't come off. So I'm not going to plan that transfer, especially with the City rotation. I'm not going to plan that transfer, because all of a sudden, what happens if Aguero's rested Saturday? He's almost guaranteed to play Tuesday. And then you're like, well, I don't want to move for Kane when I know Aguero's going to play Tuesday. And it just doesn't seem like a good idea to plan a transfer in week 1. So it's Kane or no Kane for me. I don't think I'm going to, but for anyone not on wildcard, I definitely would hold Aguero for Saturday and then reassess.
All right, moving on here. Let's talk a little S&M. It's Sane versus Mane. It's more than just 2 letters here. Either one of them impress you? I guess we can say they're, in comparison, they're relatively in that same price zone. 9.3 for Sane, 9.9 versus Mane. Your thoughts? Either one of these guys going forward? One's headed up in Sane, the other's headed down in Mane.
Yeah, Sane is way better than Mane. It's not even close. I just the underlying stats for Mane are garbage, and I know his points are only like 7 points less than Salah, but it almost feels like he's lucked into more points, and Salah is well underperforming his points. So as far as Sane, his points per minute are insane. Let me pull those up here, but
his points per minute, you said?
Yeah, his points per match. We can just do points per match or something like that. But he's averaging 6.3 points per match. His points per minute, though, are off the charts.
That one I don't have in front of me.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. But he's returned in every single game he's started this year. And I think he's going to start more games than not. That's hard. That Mane is so mercurial that he's either on form or he's not.
Yeah, honestly, I just like the title. Let's talk S&M, but you're right. There's really no comparison when you're looking at him right now. I mean, City's rolling everybody when it comes to goals. Liverpool scraping by with those 1-0 wins. I mean, I guess outside of Salah, yeah, there's really not much of an option when it comes to looking at either one of those 2 midfielders. Okay, moving forward, our captain dilemmas. I know this was discussed in the direct message about the rotation and players who miss games. Are they going to be more preferable when captain times come around? So I think it was Gabe, you mentioned this, right? Woke up just thinking about captain dilemmas over the fixture crunch, how we avoid captaining a player that will not get a cameo with rotation in full effect, are players who get 0 minutes when rotated preferable to those who always get some time.
Yeah, exactly. Aside from it being a window into how boring my life is, that's what I wake up thinking about. Other than that, yeah, I would rather that's what I like about Sterling, right? And what really tipped it for me between Aguero, because I went from Aguero with a couple of moves to Sterling, was that Aguero at the time was getting 60 minutes every game, and Sterling when he played he'd get a full 90, and when he'd get a full 90 he was always pushing double-digit returns. I kind of like that. I like knowing that security. I know I can, or yeah, as soon as I say this, of course, it's gonna all tumble this weekend. I was gonna say I like knowing I can captain Sterling, and if he doesn't start, he won't play, and put the vice captain on somebody like Salah or Hazard or someone like that,
Yep.
and know I have good cover. I know Sterling's not going to come in for a cameo until this weekend when he does.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. I'm glad you messaged us that earlier. I love Sterling because of that. The 90 or 0, it's the best possible outcome you could possibly have over the fixture pileup for captains, unless you have 2 players, your vice captain gets 0 as well. That's a problem. But I hear all these people, either on wildcard or thinking about long-term December fixtures, talking about how they want to dump Salah because they only want to captain him once over the next, 10 or 6 or 7 game weeks, and they think, well, what's 13 million worth when you're only going to captain him once? Well, he's going to be the permanent vice captain for me over this period, right? Because I'll just go Sterling captain, Salah vice captain, perfect. The end of discussion, because it's that Salah's going to play most of the minutes. He's been ridden all year. He might get a rest, but it's gonna be few and far between, I think, for him. Plus, I think that Klopp said this a couple times last year. Salah's best rest is when he's on the pitch. So, and he didn't miss a lot last year. I think he might have played. He might have missed like 1 or 2 matches, not from injury, and then had one where he came on against like Southampton and scored 2 goals off the bench. And I think he might have been rested twice all of last year. And so he might miss 1 game, but I don't think it's going to be more than that over the fixture run, because I think Liverpool are playing for the title. And I also think that City are playing for the title in this period. I think this is when City is going to make their move to say, after New Year's, we want to be 10 points clear. And so I think it's a great time for people to have City attacking assets, because they know they're so deep and other teams that are competing with them are not deep. This is the time where they need to pick up the points on the other teams and beat teams 4-0 and 5-0.
So who's going to score for Liverpool then if Salah's not in?
They won't. They'll go 0-0.
Yeah, and they can't do that with City.
Shaqiri, maybe, I guess.
Maybe, yeah. Every other game start. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with my captains. I just looked at Salah as to what I could potentially captain him, since he's my top man. Conceivably, I could see captaining him in the Merseyside derby this weekend at home. 17 versus United, maybe. Away to Bournemouth, away to Burnley, away to Wolves, home to Newcastle. Maybe 2, maybe 3 captain options, depending on, what City looks like, or if I decide to really, go off the deep end here and, pick up one of my defenders like a Marcus Alonso as a captain. But Alonso's been sitting vice captain here the last few weeks. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I do like your take, Casey, that if it's not Sterling, it's going to be Salah. One of them's going to play either the 90 or the 0. So yeah, I think there is a lot of viability in that comment, Gabe. I did like that.
Are you not going with Aguero this week there, Stephen?
Yeah, I think currently he is my captain. If my bus team, as the cheaters call it, I think he is my captain, and Alonso's my vice captain.
Mhm.
Last week it's funny. Last week I had Salah as my captain. Friday before I left work, I switched it over to Aguero. Got home and I got up early Saturday morning. There was no early game for the West Coast. It was at like 7. So I switched it
Yeah.
back to Salah real quick, and thankfully it paid off as Aguero did us all wrong. But this week, yeah, I think the numbers are too good. I mean, Bournemouth doesn't have that great of a defense. A lot of shots conceded inside the box. So hopefully this week, Aguero is getting his goal scoring fix, and Sterling can settle down for just 1 week. That would be nice. Let me just get off to a good festive start here. I don't want to air my grievances or test my feat of strengths too early during the Festivus period, but it's coming, I'm sure. So now that we've talked a little bit of player news, we've talked, the big six or the big three, Liverpool, Spurs, and that other team, City. That's right. Let's talk a little bit about formation. I know that's a very personal thing through the festive period. One thing I like to say is you can't be set on a formation. You got to keep it somewhat dynamic. If you don't have the players that week to run out a 3-4-3 or 3-5-2, you make changes. I mean, I've seen a lot, talk to people who have nothing on their bench. They got these 3-point something players on their bench. They're going to have no choice when it comes to rotation. They're going to get stuck with some Cardiff bench player or some Huddersfield bench player getting 0, and you're going to have to run out the same formation every week. So what do you think? What do you think when it comes to formation over the holiday period, Gabe? Are you planning on sticking primarily with one formation, or are you going to keep it flexible and maybe depending on who's hitting, depending on the matchups or possible rotation, are you going to start changing how you feel your starting 11?
Yeah, well, I see already there's a mini fixture crunch that's coming this week and into next week, and I'm already planning on making that a change in my formation. So over the past several weeks, I had divested out of my front line when I moved Aguero out and really packed my midfield line. I'm gonna probably sacrifice one midfielder. I haven't decided who it is, and bring Kane in. So put some money back into that front line. I think offline Casey made a really interesting point that it's very tough to keep a clean sheet over the fixture run, so that favors attacking players. So I do feel like there's some attackers are going to emerge here. I think they've already begun to emerge. I think Mitrovic could be back. That could be a thing. I'm certainly looking. If Arnautovic, I was glad to see that he was kind of cleared. When was it, today or yesterday? But if he's continues to struggle, I may go Arnautovic to Mitrovic, save a little bit of money there, and then kind of beef up, bring in someone like Kane, and then be flexible if I want to move back to Aguero or even or to somebody else.
Yeah, Arnautovic, I kind of want him again in my wild card just because he trained all week. There's a difference between Pellegrini coming out in his press conference and saying, yeah, Arnautovic is fit to play for the weekend, or fit-ish. He's good enough to play, basically. It's kind of how we talked about him for about a month now, but he actually hadn't trained most of the week in all of those. This week he came out and said, Marco trained all week with the team. He's fine. That's the first I've heard. That's the first time in over a month I've heard him say that he's even trained, like Monday, Tuesday. Usually it might be one training session before the match, and he's like training Thursday, Friday, maybe. So maybe he's just so injury prone that very, very quickly he could become dead again. So
hey, that's okay. Don't worry. They have Andy Carroll who's fit again. I'm sure that'll only last like a game or two. So
he'll score a hat trick and then break his leg or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of Arnautovic, and maybe this moves us into the viability of the forwards and our forward lines. But I'm frustrated with him. One return in the last 6. I think it's going to be 1 and 7 this week. I don't think he's going to get anything this week, which really puts me in a bind. That at $7 million, I'm not going to sit here with a non-performing forward when I know I could use that money in my midfield and hopefully get somebody, like an Ollie or an Eriksson, or if I decide to, give up one of my City defenders and go with a City midfield. He's killing me. If it were anybody else, I mean, we talked Mitrovic here a little bit ago, same thing. Why do people still have Mitrovic on their team? before last week. There's no reason in the world you should have had him. He had blanked, what, 6 or 7, 8 games, hadn't been looking good, not getting the service. And, lo and behold, they get the new manager bump. He comes up, scores 2. I was frustrated with Mitrovic, not Mitrovic, I'm sorry, Arnautovic last week. I was watching the game, and there was a ball or something that was close to him, and he just stopped and stood on the field and bent over. It's like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, either play or get off the pitch. I understand he's that high intensity, all or nothing player, but it was a little upsetting to see that here's a professional out there, and it's like, okay, I'm done. The game's over. He was almost not trying. I think at that point the game's almost over. City was already rolling, but just sort of frustrating. And I expected a little bit more. I don't know.
He has that, he has that thing where it's that chip on his shoulder, right? He's going to do things his way, when he wants, how he wants. It's, I kind of, there's this kind of category of player that I see, and it's Arnautovic, Mitrovic, and Richarlison. Like those three, they're like I don't know, the Droogs in Clockwork Orange or something like that.
Could get a red card any week, is what you're saying.
Anytime, even when a game isn't on, it's just got a random. Yeah, so and that can be really frustrating when you're trying to cheer for a player. You're hoping for good things, and you see these bonehead things that they do.
Arnautovic is if the ball's not close to me or I'm not making a run, I'm walking, and that's just what he does. He just walks around the pitch, and then all of a sudden.
And then all of a sudden, Casey is cut off midstream there.
Cliffhanger, Casey.
All right, well, there he is. You were saying.
Sorry, guys. I was just sorry. I don't know.
And then all of a sudden.
Oh, so Arnautovic, if he's not trying to score a goal, he's walking. That's basically his thing. He's like, he'll walk around the pitch and then he'll sprint for 50 yards, beat 2 defenders, and score a world-class goal. And you're just like, and then he just walks the rest of the game. Just what he does. It's frustrating. I would say his attitude's not the best, which is why when they're down 4-0, he's not going to get you a goal because he just doesn't care. Yeah. He's like, the game's over. Why am I on the pitch? I kind of wonder if his injury at 88 minutes was just like, I'm tired, I'm done, I'm going to leave. I mean, it very easily could have been.
How do you recover, though, inside a week with a deep bone bruise as he allegedly has on his knee? I just don't see how that happens. I know sports medicine has come a long way in the last 20 or 30 years, but that, we're going to see him limp out onto the pitch with that goofy gait he's got when he strolls onto the field. And you're going to see the same thing this week. There's going to be a ball, like you said, he's not going to get to, and he's not going to try. And it's like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing is he trained early in the week for the first time in over a month, which means
then again, what can we take into these manager pressers, or what managers actually say? I mean,
well, just the fact that he trained. He hadn't been training on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday every single week for the last month and a half. Now he's actually trained all week, which makes me hopeful that maybe they'll manage his minutes, but that makes me hopeful that he can actually play Saturday, Tuesday, or something like that if he's not being rested early in the week for the training this week. I don't know. It's tough.
Seems like the solution is to just not watch him play.
Well, sometimes our teams do better if we don't watch them anyway.
Yeah. So the difference between Arnautovic and Mitrovic for a while is Mitrovic wasn't even shooting the ball for 3 or 4 weeks.
You're
so
right.
He didn't even have a shot. And Arnautovic, he had all these blanks, but he'd hit the post every game or have a world-class save, deny him a goal. And you're just like, well, he still looks like he's going to score every week, So I don't know. That's why Mitrovic was, definitely out of my team 3 weeks ago. And Arnautovic, at least he looks like he's going to be scoring every week.
I mean, the last time Arnautovic played 5 in a row was to start the season, the first 5 games, finished with 3 goals over that period. He had 2 90-minute games, and the rest were roughly 60, 66 minutes. But, I mean, he's had 3 90-minute games here the last 3 weeks.
I wouldn't mind him having 70 minutes a week and getting pulled off as long as he's going to start the next week. That'd be fine.
So what do we do with Callum Wilson? Speaking of forwards, He's been one of the hottest commodities this year. He's been relatively consistent, affordable, and then we run into these buzzsaw fixtures that Bournemouth have, and I got it. They didn't look all that great last week against Arsenal. I know they had a goal called back due to offsides, I think it was, which was actually onside if you look at the replay. But I mean, they didn't look all that impressive. Is this somebody that we should decide to stick with over this period? Maybe playing him for games like Huddersfield and Wolves, possibly Brighton. I mean, there's 3 games out of the next 7 you could have him in. Or is his price at 6.8? Is that too high to sit on the bench?
I wonder if Casey is going to keep him after his wild card.
Yeah, and he's not in my wild card. If he wasn't, I might have kept him, but King back actually makes him worse, I think. So Josh King they kind of take turns running through the middle and making the runs, towards the near post, and the other one kind of goes wide. And all of a sudden you watch Bournemouth and Callum Wilson's not the focal point of their attack like he was when King was out. And so I just don't know if he justifies $7 million in your team when they have terrible fixtures and he's kind of their co-talisman. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to justify. I don't think he's going to blank through this entire period. He'll get an odd return. I just don't know if it's worthwhile versus a similarly priced player, or divesting that money and putting it in midfield.
So then if you're sitting there with 2 Bournemouth players, be it Wilson and Fraser or Wilson and Brooks, you drop Wilson, stick with the cheaper midfield option, using it as a 4th or even a 5th in the case of Brooks, maybe?
Yeah, Brooks would be perfect because you can bench him and then play him sometimes.
All right. Other 4s. I'm sorry, Brooks.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to give Brooks a little love here because I think he's getting more and more involved every game. Every time I see him, I don't think it's really truly materialized for him just yet, but I mean, I see him really making an impact as he further kind of slides in that center attacking mid hole in there. As if Wilson and King are pushing that back line, there's a pretty big hole that they're leaving in there as if they're able to back that line, the opposing back line up. And Brooks has been in there kind of knocking. So I'm ready to see what he can do.
I like Brooks, yeah, because Fraser plays on the opposite wing, and Fraser's the creator. He has the ball all the time. All of a sudden, Brooks is always making that back post run, and he gets a lot of those balls that kind of come through the mess, and he gets, follow-up opportunities to score goals and things like that. He's making that back post run, which is just always, it's like what Sterling scores 15 goals a year on. It's amazing. And
sometimes he'll cut that run inside. So sometimes he'll make the back post run, and then when the defense adjusts, it's an interesting comparison to Sterling because the role is kind of similar. And when the back line adjusts and they block that back post, he cuts inside and opportunities there too.
Yeah, he'll overlap with Wilson. Wilson will make the back post run, or King will make the back post run, and he'll make the the penalty spot run. And he's wonderful at that. And he's like 20 or 21. He's just going to get better. He's a really good player. He's
a smart player.
The last 15 weeks of the season or something, when Bournemouth have good fixtures again, like he should be in everyone's team, if not now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, one other forward I want to bring up before we move on here, just some more midfield discussion. And I only bring them up because Newcastle has won 3 games in a row. Any viability in Salomon Rondon for the short term? I mean, they have some decent fixtures. Home to West Ham, away to Everton, home to Wolves, away to Huddersfield, home to Fulham. I mean, pretty.
I'm very interested, but I'm also very, very biased. Being from Venezuela, he's my homeboy, my hometown guy. I don't know, like Rondon is a player that he's awful to watch for about 94 minutes of a game, or maybe 97 minutes of a game. But then the when he does something well, it's shocking. It's really, really impressive. So I've been thinking about it. So it's what's his price right now? It's about 6.6, the same as Mitrovic.
5.7.
5.7.
Oh, it's 5.7. I mean, I think he's starting to compete like between him and Jimenez. I think
It's
that's
just him and
definitely
Jimenez. Yeah, those are that's the price bracket that he's competing with, and
yeah, if as an enabler, I'm very much intrigued.
He's interesting. They've got good fixtures. One thing that just blows me, one thing that is promising is that Newcastle have changed the way they've played when he's come in. Like their whole team, their whole attack is now feed the ball into Rondon through the air, and it's like they were just kind of in shambles in their attack without him, and all of a sudden they changed how they attack because of him. Like because him being on the pitch and them having a target man, they attack differently, and they've won like 3 or 4 matches in a row. They scored 2 goals, and I think all of them. Now Rondon didn't score in this last week, but he freed up the space for other players. So he's unlocked their offense, and at the price point, it's so difficult. Like I kind of want him, but then at 5.7. You'd have to play him every week, and do you want him playing every week? And it's just kind of rough to bench him. But he is very intriguing at that price point. In fact, I've tinkered around with wildcard drafts where I have 2 up top. That's Jimenez and Rondon, and that's it. And like all of the money is in midfield, and it could be worth it.
Well, it's interesting. You bring up Jimenez again at 5.9, and over the next 8 game weeks, which takes us to the first weekend in January, we have 8 fixtures, and Wolves have 5 favorable fixtures. They do play Spurs, Liverpool, and Chelsea, but I'm seeing what we saw of Wolves earlier in the season. I do think they can compete against all 3 of those teams. I mean, will they score? Maybe, maybe not, but that's 5 good opportunities to play. Jimenez up front in a starting role, or again at 5.9, is that too much to keep on the bench for 3 games out of the next 8? I mean, we're talking Rondon at 5.7 with some good.
Probably get him off the bench anyways in the holiday fixture. If he's your first bench, he's probably just coming on anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I get that. Jimenez. The interesting thing with Wolves is they're a terrible attack, but Jimenez has like a 70% goal involvement or something crazy like that. Like if there's a goal, he's probably assisting it, which he's probably not scoring it, but he's probably assisting it. So.
Right. Do we know how Rondon and Jimenez, how they rotate? That could be interesting.
Yeah, I would have to pull it up here. I just closed that on it.
Right. No, it's okay, but it's something to look at if you're going with if you have an Aguero or a Kane or something like up front, you want to go with 2. If those 2 rotate well, I don't think that's out of the question.
And that was who, Wolves and Newcastle, huh?
Yeah. I mean, you would want to bench Jimenez probably for Chelsea home next week, and then I don't know. They play each other at Newcastle in 2 weeks, so that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Rondon has Everton when Wolves play Chelsea. Yeah,
neither is great, but I'd rather play Everton, especially because of the aerial threat. Because I still think that they're going to be weak. That Everton's weak from set pieces.
Well. Kind of tough. Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's so strong. He can win an aerial ball against anyone. But Yerry Mina is no pushover either.
No, he has absolutely dominated anyone any striker he's played against. Morata is not great to begin with, and Morata was just diving as soon as he went near Mina, hoping he'd just get a penalty, and that's just his whole game plan because he couldn't beat him.
And we're getting to defense here in just a minute. Before we do, let's talk about the midfield bulk. So we've got hypothetically 2, or in Casey's case, 3 premium midfielders. How do you round out your other 2 midfield spots? What are you doing, Casey, since you're on the wild card?
I'm thinking of playing 5 premium midfielders. And no premium forwards. That's kind of what I want to go for.
We'll talk about your defense in a minute.
I can show you what that looks like if you'd like.
Okay, so
well, I guess not premium. Well, I mean, Sigurdsson would be my fifth midfielder, so I don't know if you want to call that premium or not. But
I mean, it's 7-4. I mean, it's 7-5. I guess we should say 9. 9 and up. I mean, that's sort of where I think where that premium level starts. And we don't have many 8 somethings. I mean, Silva's there, Pogba's there. I think Ozil's there as well. But 9 starts to get a little tough to shift budget around to get as you said, five midfielders in there. So seeing as a lot of people aren't on a wild card, how do you round out your 5 midfielders then?
My midfield would be Salah, Sane, Sterling, Silva, Sigurdsson. That's kind of what I want to go with.
Soccer. No, I'm kidding.
S for super returns.
There you go. He's going to be pulling off his Everton jersey, a big S over his chest.
Town United.
Yeah, so I can share my screen with you and show you what it could potentially look like.
Gabe, maybe Casey wasn't the one to ask this question to begin.
But just my S midfield. I didn't even think of that. It just feel like, hey, all the S's and then I need to find like S defenders and just S everything. Actually, that'd be interesting. I want to see if I could come up with a draft that would have all S players.
Maybe
I have success as a forward. So we're off to a good start there.
Stay tuned next time for the LS team.
All right, Gabe, you've got 2 or 3 premium mids. Who are your? How do you round out your midfield?
How do I round it out?
How do you round it out? Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't own everybody. We know that. So hypothetically, you got Sterling and Hazard or Sterling and Salah in there. What are you doing with the other 2 to 3 spots that you're going to have to fill each week?
So for me, it's I have certain spots that are pretty much nailed. Bless you. And that's the kind of Sterling and Salah spot. I can't come off of Salah just because I'm just so afraid of him. He's involved in a chance every 20 or so minutes. That there has to be a regression coming there soon, or a positive regression coming there soon. So I round out the rest of the spots. A mid-price one, Richarlison, who I won't move Richarlison for anybody other than someone like David Silva, for example. And I can't get to that yet. So Richarlison is pretty nailed. And then I've been rolling the other one, the variable spot in my midfield is the spot that Hazard has occupied. Knowing the kind of player Hazard is, he is very much a streaky player. But this year the streak is identifiable, and I think the identifier there is Giroud. So I'm waiting for Giroud to be more involved in league games, but apparently he started in Europa League, I believe. Yeah. Is that right? Yep. He did, right? And that kills Hazard. Hazard, he hasn't scored any goals with Giroud with Morata on the pitch. So that's my variable spot. And if I need to, I use it to adapt formations. So if I want to pump money back into the forward line, or if I want to bring money back to the back line or something like that, that's the spot that'll take it from. And that spot's occupied by Hazard. Looks like I'm probably moving it to Brooks soon.
Interesting. All right.
I almost have a full S team, just so you guys know.
Oh, excellent.
I've almost got it. There's I just got to do the defense now.
You can share that with us when you're finished.
Oh, yes, got to bring in John Stones now. Here we go.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, all my money is in defense. We'll talk about here in just a minute. But Salah is my only premium mid. So I've got Hughes, Frazier, Goodmanson, and Luca Morris rotting on my bench because it's been a struggle. You look at the games and say, oh, okay, one more game. Okay, I'll get rid of him this week. Boom, I put him on the bench. He scores a goal. Comes back next week. I start him. Nothing. So Lucas Moore is my make weight, but I thought I had everything figured out today, and then somebody, a fairly reputable source, who I talk back and forth, brought up the name Pascal Gross, and that just like threw me completely sideways. It's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Look at those next 3 fixtures. They look excellent. Gross just coming back from injury, low owned, affordable at 6-7. And I'm not about knee jerk this year. And I know if I put him and hit that transfer button, it's going to be a knee jerk decision based on how I've been playing all season long. But Moore is not starting. I think I like Pascal Gross a little bit more than Hughes this week. I mean, because Hughes would have to start along with Sala and Goodmanson, as I'm going to bench Frazier and bench Mora. And I just look at that thinking, wow, I mean, at least for 2 or 3 weeks, Pascal Gross could be a better third option for me if I do play a 5-3-2 or a 5-2-3 over the next couple of weeks. But he's one who I'm now reconsidering in hopes of jumping that bandwagon or jumping that trend if indeed he comes and knocks a goal and an assist this weekend against Huddersfield.
So I have a question for you on that front there, Steve. Does the top 1,000 players do those?
I couldn't understand your question.
Oh, sorry. Does the top 1,000 players, do they own Pascal Gross? I know you've been kind of looking at their
Not even close. I don't even. I bet he's probably not 0.2, not 0.3 owned. I haven't even looked at that, but there's no way he's even close. No. I can pull it up right now for you. But that seems okay. So you take Emil Højbjerg then over Pascal Gross. I mean, that's what the top 1,000 says. And that line of thinking, you're right. That's what I should do. Okay, I'll bring Højbjerg in since he's 16% owned. And across the top 1,000, 0. So nobody's got him. But then again, I mean, I don't have a Richarlison.
But that's the place where you want to have your differential. I think it's okay to have your fourth mid or your third defender or your second forward or something like that be your differential. That's totally fine. That's how you get the safe rises that we saw Gabe get this week, because he had 9 of the 11 template and his 2 differentials fired and no one else's differentials fired. All of a sudden he's got a huge green arrow.
Mm-hmm.
And his floor is so low. His red arrows are going to be so small.
Small, right? And
his green arrows could be really big.
But one of my differentials was Sterling.
Yeah.
He's still a differential now.
It's a good differential. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
But for my fifth, I mean, that's my big concern ahead of tomorrow is, okay, wow, do I take a shot on Pascal Gross for 3 weeks and, look at playing maybe a 5-3-2 and, seeing what Arnautovic does this week. I mean, I have no problem going, 2 midfielders, and we'll get into the defenders here in just a second. But, I don't have a whole lot. Goodmanson hasn't produced. He's been injured, and then he was ill this last week. But, he's been a fairly consistent returner here for Burnley when he's healthy, but he just hasn't been healthy the last few weeks when I brought him in, which appeared to be a good move and has gone completely the wrong way, just like Mora has. Two players wasting away on the team here, which even some semblance of a return. And I mean, my overall position I think would be much stronger than where I am, here ahead of the festive period.
You could get another premium, like if you really kind of reorganize your midfield. It seems you could probably get another premium out of Lucas Moura and drop Goodmanson, drop the other 3 to 4 or 5. So get a bill.
I was toying around with that, and I could easily get Eriksson or Ali in, which makes my third forward end up being Isaac Success. As Casey said, drop him on the bench, third spot. He's guaranteed 1 or 2 points every week, and I have no problem with that either. So let's shift gears, get out of the midfield, since that's where I know many people tie their money up. Let's get into the defenders. Premiums seem to be scoring huge this year. I mean, we had the Ram, we had the Robertson, Alonso, and Mendy going until Mendy got hurt. Just didn't look the same when he came back the second time. Goes again, and now you have Lucas Digne, or who is the other one? Laporte. I mean, those seem to be the 2 defenders, or people going to Doherty to bring into the defense. How is your defense set up, Gabe?
So I currently have with a 5-man defense in Wan-Bissaka, Robertson, Laporte, Alonso, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. I went Mendy to Laporte, but other than that, I've had this defense for quite some time. I almost moved Alexander Arnold out the week after he was benched or he was rotated. Luckily, I had bigger fires to put out, and I kept him, and that's served me well. But I feel like I'm somewhat heavily invested in defense at the moment. And I may need to. I'm thinking of moving some things around. Maybe downgrading Laporte to a cheaper defender, maybe Doherty, maybe somebody even cheaper. Maybe even go to a 3-8 non-playing defender and keep that one at the end of my bench and upgrade my goalkeeper right now is Patricio, who's hasn't been performing that well recently. But if I get off of Laporte, then I would go straight to Ederson. Ederson's cheaper than Laporte. They're going to get similar returns. I don't expect any bonuses from Ederson, but Laporte's not a huge bonus magnet either. So I think it's important to have. I feel comfortable with 3 very kind of premium defenders, and then I would be flexible with my approach to the other 2.
Casey, what's your approach to defense?
Yeah, my wildcard defense has not changed, and unless I need to free up cash, it's not going to. It's pretty template. Alonso, Robertson, they're season keepers. I got them at their cheapest. I don't think I'll ever sell them unless they're hurt. I think they'll be the top 2 scoring defenders in the game over the season, and I'm not worried about them. So those 2 are staying in every draft I've had. Third defender, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I know he's a rotation risk, but that's why you have 3 playing bench players. Doherty and Wan-Bissaka. So the idea is to play 4 at the back or 3 at the back, depending on fixtures. I could play 5 at the back this week, honestly, although I'll probably play 4 at the back and bench Trent Alexander-Arnold. But honestly, I kind of want to play the strategy where I have my first bench player be a defender. So there's at least a chance of a 6-pointer coming off the bench, and otherwise it's 1 or 2 points and no big deal. So, if you played like Alonso, Doherty, Wan-Bissaka, Robertson at the back and Trent Alexander-Arnold as your first sub, there's a really good chance you could have 14 points off as your first sub with your City midfield. I have triple City midfield, so I'm expecting 1 to get rotated every week. So I'm expecting to play my first bench player almost every week. So I think defense is the best place to do that, where you might have not a banker for a clean sheet, but you have at least an okay chance, like a mid-table side away or something like that as your first bench. So you maybe have like a 30 or 40% chance of a clean sheet to come off as your first sub.
Yeah, my defense is pretty close to what Gabe has. The only difference, I decided to go a little bit heavier and went Van Dijk over Alexander-Arnold. I think that's a difference of about 0.7, if I recall. And obviously, the attacking returns just won't be there for Van Dijk. Although he has looked good not only in Nations League, but he has looked good in Champions League play. Come close. He scored a couple of goals. He had that volley for the national squad here last week, which was pretty impressive. But I was honestly, one of the thoughts I had was dropping Wan-Bissaka, making some budgetary moves in the midfield, and going double Chelsea with Alonso and Luiz. I know Luiz got beat like a drum last week against Spurs, but I still feel Chelsea had a good run, and outside of City, I mean, they're solid till mid-January, I think.
Yeah, but so is Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah. You're right, and that's what has put me off, because I'm looking at the next 4 for Palace, and I mean, Burnley
home, Brighton away. You're definitely going to play him there.
Yeah.
West Ham away, you can play him there if you need to. You can bench him otherwise. It's not a big deal. Leicester home, I'd play him there. Man City away, obviously last bench player, but then you have Cardiff home, so it's like,
yeah.
I mean, certainly, I'd say 4 of the next 6, if not 5 of the next 6.
Yeah,
you'd have a good chance of wanting to play, Wan-Bissaka.
and I mean, think points for my defenders. I think I'm at like 6.15 per game for each player, so I'm getting excellent returns out of them, just like Gabe, just like you are. Ederson and goal for me. So I mean, it's potentially 48 points there to start the week if they all hit for clean sheets, which I think that's happened a couple of times this year, but. I mean, that's 38.5 million in my defense and my keepers. I mean, that's a huge chunk of budget. So it's quite obvious why I can't do what Casey's doing and build a Man City midfield for my starting 11. But midfield is where I need to address. But I'm not going to sacrifice my defense, like you said, over the festive period to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Garf is he's just asking how much longer we're going to be on.
Oh my God. Do you guys want to have a look at my wild card squad?
Yeah, show us your squad.
I mean, I kind of talked about it, but I'll show you my.
I mean, we did name this episode "Save My Wild Card," so
yeah, seriously. I wouldn't mind you guys giving some input. That's totally
Pascal
fun.
Gross. You heard it here first. I can't take
I'm not wild carding Pascal Gross into my team. It's just not happening. If he was still 5'5", yeah. If he was still 5'5", yeah, maybe, but not at 6.7.
That's okay. You have a Watford player in there, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think if there are takeaways from this pod, it's Pascal Gross and Salomon Rondon. Those are the two.
You have to captain one of them each week. Rondon looks to be the triple captain that I'm thinking of playing after next week. All right, I'll share my screen with you guys to see if I should be able to do that. We're on the side here. Control.
While we wait for your screen to come up, we do have a question coming in from FPL Classico, and we may have touched on this. Hazard worth keeping, or should he be transferred out for now for Sterling before the price changes? So that's obviously coming down here in the next few hours. Hazard ahead of Fulham. Any thoughts?
I mean, if you ask me, I think get Sterling as quickly as you can. I don't know if well, I mean, let me take that back a little bit, because I do have a suspicion Sterling may be rested this weekend. I certainly think this weekend, after this weekend's game, we'll know definitively if Sterling will play early next week. I don't know if I'd take Hazard out for Sterling this week, unless you can't. If you wait, if you can't afford it, then absolutely do it. I think Sterling is the season-long keeper, and Hazard is the rotational player.
Yeah, ahead of Fulham, even though they had the bump last week with the Tinkerman. Yeah, there's no way that I could bring him out ahead of Fulham this week. I think he's worth keeping. Murata in or out. I'm just hoping that Hazard, if he doesn't have a screamer of a game, then they're building from the back, and Alonso can hit for that brace that he's so close to having here a couple of weeks ago. So, Casey, it looks like you got your team up here.
I do have my team up. So this is kind of my safe draft. I mean, I've played around with ways to get Kane in, or play like one up top, like a 4-5-1, and I don't know. We can talk offline about that, but that's a little more experimental and maybe not for the masses. But this is kind of my safe team. I've divested from the forward line because I don't see any value there. I think the point ceiling is much lower for players, even like Kane. If he braces, that's 13 points. I mean, David Silva for 4 million less can get 11 points with a goal, a clean sheet, and 3 bonus, which he does.
So I'm sorry. Go through it one time, because the screen is just a little small for me to see here with my eyes.
Sure, yeah. So goalkeepers, I have Button, the Ryan's backup, who, I don't know, he might be the player that takes over for Ryan in January when Ryan goes and plays in the Asian games. It's just a throwaway 4.0. I have Patricio still. I don't know if I want to keep him or not. I have some money in the bank. I could go up. I couldn't go up that far, but I can go to any of the 4-6s. I could even go up to Leno. That's an interesting shout. I was actually talking to one of the. That was my question to the Always Cheating 30-minute podcast on goalkeepers, and they kind of shouted Leno because of Arsenal's good fixtures, and they're not a great defense, but a 4-8 nailed keeper is not really that bad. So they've only had 1 clean sheet in 13 matches, but they've averaged, I mean, they've never been a good defense, and they still average like 10 or 12 clean sheets a year. So I would think that they'd revert back to that mean, I would hope.
You know, Little's been getting save points. He picked up a save point each of the last 3 weeks, and actually he's picked up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 since he's come on. And
yeah, he's a better, and he's just a better goalkeeper than Czech. So
yeah. No, obviously he's sharper. He's younger. Yeah, I liked watching him in goal. Unfortunately, I don't have much faith in their Arsenal defense. Maybe when Koscielny comes back, I would consider.
Yeah, it's one of those where you're like, well, maybe he'll get 3 points, maybe he'll get 6. It's whatever. It's no big deal. Who knows what his bonus would? I would think because he's getting so many saves that if they do ever keep a clean sheet, he's going to get like 10 points because he'll get like a save point and 3 bonus or something like that. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with my goalkeepers. That's kind of 11th hour decision I'll make when I figure out what kind of budget I have for it. My defense is Trent Alexander-Arnold, Alonso, Doherty, Wan-Bissaka, Robertson. I plan on playing probably 4 at the back or 3 at the back, depending on the fixtures of my forwards and my defenders. And those forwards are Rondon, Success, and Jimenez. So I'm okay with playing Rondon and Jimenez. If they both have good fixtures, I can bench one of them as a first defender or first bench if I need to. I'll probably expect them to come off the bench for a midfielder, a City midfielder anyways. And as I said earlier, I have the full S midfield of Salah, Sané, Sterling, Silva, Sigurdsson.
That's absolutely shocking.
So definitely playing 5 midfielders every week, and it's good value. They're all of them are good on bonus points except for Salah, which is better than I can say for most of the forwards. And they also get the clean sheet point. So, and I'm thinking that City is basically you expect to only get 2 out of 3, but it's also half a defensive cover. So if they keep a clean sheet, I get 2 clean sheet points as opposed to 4 as you would get with Ederson. So it's like it's covering half a City defender if you play 3 midfielders and get 2 of them. And if you get all 3 of them for whatever lucky reason, then you're covering 3/4 of a clean sheet point.
Interesting strategy.
Mm-hmm. I like that team. I think I see the logic in the strategy. Obviously there's no team that you're going to come up with that has no concerns. So what I would identify there is goalkeeper until we see Wolves or kind of turn it around defensively, and maybe some Spurs attacking cover.
Yeah, I thought about Spurs. It's so difficult because every time I look at a Spurs, other than Harry Kane, there's even then, every time you think of a Spurs attacking asset, there's a Man City attacking asset in the same price bracket, and you think, well, if they're both rotation risks over the holiday fixture pile up, why not go with the City one? And that's the struggle I see. But if, for example, one gets hurt, David Silva, Sterling, Sané, if one of them becomes less nailed because of Kevin De Bruyne coming back, it's very easy to go Sané to Eriksen or Silva to Ali or something like that. And so I'm flexible with my transfers because I have so much money in the midfield that the Spurs midfielders are going to be really easy to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my thought there, is that it is giving up on Kane with this structure, unless well, even then it's not really giving up on Kane because I can downgrade. With 2 free transfers, I could either do a mini wild card to reallocate midfield funds to upgrade either Rondon or Jimenez to Kane, or even with 2 free transfers, I could probably go Salah to, someone low and Kane in. So, and with all these with the fixture pile up, like I said, you get almost 2 free transfers a week so it's nice. It's easier to be patient for like 2 days just to get another free transfer.
I was just about to
out of Brooks and then Jimenez to Kane or something like that if you really wanted to.
Right.
So what about this other defense that's got Schindler and Stankovic?
Oh my, yeah. So this is I tweeted the all S team.
Oh, I got you. I see it now. I didn't read that.
This is it's the all S team. Yeah.
Check that out.
I mean, you got to admit the midfield's strong.
Well, that's my actual wild card midfield.
Yeah,
so.
I know.
My defense the S defense is awful. It's like Stones, double Huddersfield, and
Stevens.
dead players. And then you have to play Sorloth and Sturridge and Success up top, so that's fun.
You just made the cheaters happy again.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Sturridge could, he might come in for Salah a couple of games. There you go.
All right, I think that's going to do it. It seems to be the water is too warm for FPL Shark tonight. I thought he would get his 1 point cameo, but it does not look like yeah, he's going to get that point. So, Gabe, yes, you came off the bench and another star-studded performance. It's going to be fast and furious here as we, the U.S. contingent, get to cast 15, 16, and 17. So the only opportunity we have is Monday. So right now it's going to be whoever's available for Monday. We're going to try to get something out Monday and do the best we can. It's going to be fun, I think. It's going to be exciting to watch. It's going to be a lot to talk about, I'm sure. So any final thoughts, Casey?
Yeah, you guys are going to have to help me tomorrow morning when I'm panicking.
Okay, just as long as you can give me that final thumbs up or thumbs down on Pascal Gross, I will help you.
Do you have the money for Sigurdsson? Because you don't have to get.
I do.
Just get him.
I can't. Those fixtures are terrible.
He's got, he can. He's scored against. He's on penalties, so he can score against the big teams. Calvert-Lewin will probably dive against.
Yeah, but Richarlison goes down way too easy and never in the box. Oh, I'm sorry, he went down in the box once.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Richarlison will dive.
Plus, you know what? I have a problem playing Sigurdsson at home against Watford.
Okay, well, in that same price bracket, then
there is nobody.
Go for Pascal Gross. You get my thumbs up. Get it. You know what? If he returns this week, when we pod on Monday, we can call it the Pascal Gross pod or something like that.
I have to agree. I say if he's back and he's healthy and he returns this week, he has the fixtures, and if he shows he has the form this week, freaking do it. Why not? Like, why the hell not? Right?
I don't know. So early, was he not 100% healthy to start the year? Because he was getting rotated a lot early on.
He played 59 the first week and then had 89 with a goal the second week.
Is that it? And then he got hurt?
He played 10 minutes against Liverpool and then 59 against Fulham and got injured. And then hasn't played.
So even at the beginning of the year when he wasn't really healthy, he wasn't starting week in, week out. So that's got to be concerning over the fixture pileup, right? That he's not playing a lot of minutes.
I don't know. With as much as they struggle on the road with Murray finding the goal, I think Gross is going to be a shot in the arm for them. But we'll have to wait and see. Well, it is risky. I know that. Yeah,
it could pay off. I mean. That could really pay off for you.
But I do agree with you that Sigurdsson is a much stronger candidate for a number 2 midfielder than risky Pascal Gross. Gabe, on to you. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts? No. Not that I can think. Well, yes, actually, my final thoughts are with Casey tonight, because. Despite the fact that I'm sure he has many other responsibilities in life, all of his mental capacity will be taken by this one decision, this one final team that will make or break his life, really. So, yeah, I'm with Casey tonight. I stand with Casey.
I'm glad it's a deadline tomorrow during the middle of the day, because if it was like a 5 a.m. deadline on Saturday, I would not sleep tomorrow night. So at least I can just be like at work and just doing this tinker is on the side while I'm awake. Well, I'm supposed to be awake.
Casey, don't feel bad. My final thoughts: I'll be stewing over Pascal Gross all evening, so I feel your pain, buddy.
I'll put him in my wild card team if you want.
So that's going to do it. We'll hopefully see and talk to everybody on Monday after game week 14. I do want to wish everybody out there good luck to the festive period. And again, we will see you Monday. Good night.
Bye.
See you guys.